My Lunch and Learn, where each and every week I explore topics to help you elevate your mindset, be at your best, and radically expand your life and business. And today I am talking about imposter syndrome. I'm talking about how you can have it stop haunting you and let it go once and for all. So, if you've ever heard those little voices of self doubt in the back of your mind, questioning if you're really good enough and deserving the success that you've acquired, if you look at people around you and feel like a bit of an outsider and wonder if you'll be found out, maybe you don't know everything and you're not good enough, today is for you because it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm going to give you some really simple solutions that you can use to thaw that perspective out and change it permanently if that's what you want. It's a really good idea. So I know that some of you know me and some of you don't. I'm Larissa McCooch. I am a master results coach and CEO of Abundance Academy, where we help entrepreneurs, educators, managers, coaches, consultants, professionals whose external results tell the world they're successful, but on the inside, they know they're destined for more. So I help them overcome stress, overwhelm, anxiety, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, all of that stuff that tends to come up, and really go after their dreams with concrete tools so they can love themselves, love their business, and absolutely love their life once again. So I would love to know where you are coming in from. If you are tuning in live, let me know what your name is and where you're from, because I may not be able to see your name in the stream. I'd love to welcome you here. And if you're tuning in by replay, then type in replay in the chat so we can welcome you after the fact. I truly do thank you for taking the time to be here, and I really do appreciate your presence. So just want to share a little story. I just want to share a little story and really how this topic and this idea of imposter syndrome has played out in my life, and it might give you a sense of appreciation in your life as well. Now, my first career was in financial services, and I started financial services when I was 18. I got licensed and I knew a lot. Most people my age weren't exactly my ideal clients because they didn't have money, they were in school, they didn't care about money. That wasn't in their realm of possibilities. A handful, not many. So I'd end up working with people that were in their 30s, their 40s and 50s and beyond. And technically, I knew my stuff. I knew how money worked. The first financial book I ever read was when I was 8 years old. I wanted to invest. I had $500 saved up of my own money to buy a stereo. And I decided, instead of buying a stereo, I don't know where I got this idea, but I wanted to invest my money. And the woman that was the financial advisor at the time, she said, I'm not going to invest your money until you read this book and you really get an understanding of what money is. So that was my very first introduction to personal finance. And I made my own investment at that time. That was my first investment. It was in trust. And it felt so empowering to start taking charge of my future. Now, when I was 18, I looked young and I didn't have a lot of charisma. I didn't really have those social skills. And I did anything and everything I could to fit in because I truly loved what I was doing. I would wear cardigans, I would wear dress clothes. I even got glasses. I got plain old glasses with no prescription because I had 20/20 vision back then, and I still do. And so I did everything I could to really make my prospective clients feel comfortable with me. And I desperately hope people would recognize that I knew what I was talking about and what I was doing. Yet deep down, a part of me wondered, I'm like, well, I am only 18. Do I really know what I'm talking about? It's like, logically I do, but really I'm only 18. And I had that conversation of self-doubt. Even when I got on the leaderboard in our office, in our city, in our province, it's still, there was some part of me that doubted myself. And it was like a looming cloud that stayed with me for so many years moving forward and in other careers. What I can say today is I can say right now confidently that I don't know everything. I am a student of life. I am a student of personal growth just like you. However, I also know how to help people dramatically and make radical changes in their life in truly profound ways. I know I know what I'm capable of. And I say that with authenticity, with power, and with grace, and not from a conceited place, but because I know I've put my time in. I know I've worked with so many clients and I've gotten them such incredible results. Now, this shift of thinking and perception really started when I began this particular career. And the switch really flipped when I started going through a personal breakthrough process. I cleared my emotional baggage and really got to know myself at a whole new level. I then started working with more and more and more clients. I started building the muscle, right? Just like you go to the gym to build muscles. I built my confidence muscles in my career and accelerated my capacities to actually use these gifts that I'd revealed and I'd uncovered during the breakthrough process. And that's a very different place. It's a confident place and it feels really, really good. And I don't have to know everything. However, I know what I know. I know what I can do to help people. I also know people can take responsibility for themselves and they are capable of change. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because imposter syndrome is real. In fact, research shows that more than 75% of professional women, and some research has actually showed more than 90% of women and 80% of men actually experience imposter syndrome. And just ask yourself, would you like to let go of imposter syndrome once and for all and stop that looming cloud overhead? Right? Maybe you've received an award or promotion and it seemed like everyone else was more excited than you were. Do you want to actually tune out those voices of self-doubt and self-criticism? Finally start accepting those compliments that people give you and in your heart know that they're right and know that you deserve it. Would you like to show up with more authentic confidence and conviction than you ever have before? And when you look at your life, you know you're deserving of everything that's come your way. Well, that's what we are talking about today. How to let go of imposter syndrome, how to stop it from haunting you and show up in a completely, completely new way. Okay. So we really want to start owning ourselves. We want to start owning our lives. We want to start owning our businesses and show up in ways we never have before. Now, imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern. Okay. It's a psychological pattern where individual doubts about their skills, talents, or accomplishments are internalized. Okay. So you don't just doubt a certain habit or a skill or a talent, you actually start taking that on as an identity. Instead of saying, "Oh, I have some skills I need to learn," you actually hold this identity of imposter syndrome or maybe being fear of being exposed as a fraud inside. Like that's how you identify yourself and self-identify. And even though logically you may know things, feelings trump strategy every time. Feelings trump logic all the time. It's an unconscious process. This idea of imposter syndrome, this imposter syndrome phenomenon was actually introduced to the world of therapy in 1978 by Dr. Pauline Clance and Dr. Suzanne Ames. And it's really started to take the world by storm, right? And as soon as you decide to step away from the label, I promise you it's going to make a world of difference for you. Now, here's something that you need to know. Imposter syndrome is often found in really high achievers and people that might even proclaim themselves as perfectionists. They don't give themselves credit. They may attribute their success to other people or circumstances. Now, if you're a leader, I'm all for saying like, yes, we did this together. However, always consistently deflecting your success and not being willing to take credit where credit is due for you is not healthy either. Okay? So you're not willing to take your part of the credit. They think they're deceiving others. And maybe they need or they have this need or internal desire to be special or the best. And they really truly feel failure and they feel guilt about their success or or things that are working in their lives. When you step into this world of imposter syndrome, it can lead to health conditions, it can lead to negative self-worth, feelings of worthlessness, losing sleep, costing you time, money, energy, stress, and so much more. And so what do you need to do at like the higher level to overcome it? So I'm going to give you some theories to overcome it, and then I'm going to give you a few action steps that you can actually implement. Okay. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat so that we can take a look at them. And I'll do my best to answer them once I've covered some of the basics of what I want to chat with you about today. And so welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, really what you need in order to overcome imposter syndrome is to raise awareness of what imposter syndrome really is. And there's this idea of raising awareness, and I always think of it as a bullseye. Okay, awareness is like a bullseye, or a dartboard, right? If you think of the center of this bullseye, you're going to aim for the center. But if your awareness is here, that's going to be your level of awareness. If you raise your awareness, you might raise it by one stop. However, you actually exponentially increase your awareness because it goes out in all directions. You might increase it one more step, but then it increases at an even higher capacity, and one more step and one more step. So there's so much more surface area when it comes to awareness. Now, awareness isn't just learning more and stuffing your head with more information. It really is learning through study. It's getting the information and being able to apply it. It's being able to perceive what external circumstances may be influencing you. It's really understanding what your thoughts, what your feelings, what your actions are, and how they're leading you to your results. Sometimes if you're in a state of blame, or you feel like, if you're in an office, I'm going to just use the office environment. A lot of professional women tend to feel imposter syndrome. There's a lot of solutions online that say, okay, the leaders can help people reduce their imposter syndrome. However, the person feeling the imposter syndrome, it's ultimately their problem, right? Other people in the office, the leaders, the colleagues, they may be affected and impacted by it, but the person with the imposter syndrome, it's up to them to make a decision to change. The support is good, but it's actually up to you, if you've got the imposter syndrome, to make a decision that it's like, this isn't working for me. I've got to change. I need to raise my awareness of what's actually impacting me. I've got to raise my awareness of what's really going on in this scenario. Okay. And once you start to do that, you can start making those changes. So raise awareness of what imposter syndrome is and what imposter syndrome is to you. Take responsibility for where you're at and make a decision to change. Now, when you start changing your perspective, you can start getting more clear on what's going on. Now, it's very dry here. And there are two terms or two perspectives you can look at things from. First perspective is you can look at life and the world through your own eyes. So when you're looking at the world through your own eyes, you're actually feeling the feelings. It's like, I'm looking at my hands right now. Okay. If I'm looking at my hands, I'm looking at my hands and I can see my fingerprints. I could see the lines in my hands, and I'm looking at it from this perspective. And you're looking at me, looking at my hands from your perspective on the screen. So you might be looking from the front view through the screen. Now, if I remove myself from my situation, I could mentally step out of my own body and imagine myself, like maybe I'll have a fly on the wall. I'm right behind me. And I can imagine myself looking at my hands. And when I physically remove myself or mentally remove myself from that perspective, I can lessen the emotional load. I can start really looking at things from a higher level. And sometimes when you take yourself out of that emotional state, you can zoom out and get that bird's eye view of what's really going on. You can start changing your perspective. You can start shifting your perception of what is actually happening and not need to be as emotionally involved in that moment. It's a pretty cool thing. So, really changing your perspective and zooming out to get that bird's eye view is absolutely huge to get yourself out of being at this state of being of blaming others or blaming yourself or being in this mental image of a imposter, right? When you look up, you can start recognizing the skills, the talents, the work, the efforts that are going in from this beautiful human who is you, and start looking at the other pieces of the pie that you, when you're sitting there looking at your own picture, may be missing because you're only seeing this and you're missing everything else. Now, imposter syndrome often stems from something in childhood. Okay. So, if you want to really truly overcome imposter syndrome, you're going to want to take a look at what the root cause is, like where it actually happened. And for many people, it's when they were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years of age. For most people, it's prior to 7 years of age where these deep rooted childhood beliefs that we carry around with us actually were initiated. And once you learn how to do that, it's so incredibly powerful because you can learn what you need to learn and you can make a better choice. The thing is, you made a choice back then to feel like an imposter for whatever reason. It doesn't seem logical. However, there was a circumstance, there was an event, there was something that happened to you in childhood. And in childhood, you didn't have the same ability to differentiate or to think or perceive the world like you do now. So you made a decision and you carry that decision unconsciously with you under the surface at a level that you can't necessarily see. And it leads to the decisions you make. It leads to the image you hold of yourself. It leads to how much money you're currently earning, how much money you're not currently earning because you're capping yourself off. These beliefs, they are carried with you. And when you get at the root cause of these beliefs, you can start making radical changes. Now, this is something that I looked at. I mentioned the breakthrough process. I changed these beliefs at that level in the breakthrough process. And when I went through this, I was like, wow, this is so powerful. I also learned how to do this through for other people through the NLP programs that I've taken, the practitioner trainings and the other trainings that I've taken since then. And this is why we've decided to offer the NLP practitioner training as well as in Abundance Academy, because it literally is these collection of tools. Being able to go back to root cause is the fastest process where you can actually overcome things very, very fast. You can make rapid change because you're doing it at the unconscious level. Okay. So you got to really raise your awareness of what it is, of what this imposter syndrome is and how it's affecting your life. Take responsibility, not blame. Start changing your perspective and zoom out to get that bird's eye view and be willing to deal with things at root cause. Now, a couple other things I want to point out is self image. Self image is one of your greatest paradigms, and belief always trumps strategy. So, self image is one of these pictures of yourself that you did create back then that has been evolving over time. And when you start changing that image you hold of yourself, maybe instead of someone that's new to business, you actually start operating like the CEO. When you're a student versus a teacher, you have different images and you have different confidence levels. You have different thoughts, different feelings, different actions you're going to take. And self-image is something that you absolutely must take a look at. It's a huge piece of the pie when letting go of that imposter syndrome and stepping into the new you. Whenever something new is happening, you've got to realize that it's supposed to be scary, right? Let's say you are in a new job and you feel like you have imposter syndrome. However, it's like your first week, your first month, first few months on the job, and you don't feel confident. Well, how can you feel confident? You're new. And whenever something is new, whether it's a new project, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new venture, whether it's a new baby at home, I remember I thought I was confident. And then I gave birth to my child and I came home and I was like, oh, all this confidence I thought I had, I don't really know what to do with this child. It's been 20 years since I've really truly raised a baby. And And it was a whole different world. It was beautiful. I wasn't confident as a parent. I had to develop those skills. And so whenever something is new, you've actually got to take the time to develop the muscle. You've got to build the muscle. And then once you've actually done things a sufficient amount of times, as a parent, build the changing diaper muscle. You may not be confident the first few times, but I promise after 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, you're very confident at doing things like that. When you're in your new job, in your new career, you do the doing, you will no longer feel imposter syndrome, most likely. If you still do, then you've got to address it. However, you've also got to give yourself reasonable time to truly realize that is it actually imposter syndrome or is this just new? Because you've got to build the neurological connections, you've got to build the actual skills to move forward. So, and that's a level of awareness. Okay. That's another level of awareness. I think it's huge. Sometimes when entrepreneurs build too much too fast, they don't have the cup to hold it in. They don't have the systems or the support they need. And they may have to put the pause button on, or they may need to get some help and just calm down or slow down a little so that they can speed up, so that they can build the solid infrastructure to support. Okay. So this is really huge stuff. I hope this has been helpful to you so far. And it really is so profound. So we often realize when things are scary, and we believe in things like fear. We believe in things like feeling uncomfortable. We believe in these things because we've experienced them and we've practiced them so many times. However, when you raise your level of awareness and you really start to understand how the world works, then you realize that fear and faith are actually both the same thing. They're just on opposite sides of the polarity. They're on opposite sides of the pole. And if you can actually believe in fear and things may be going wrong, or that discomfort, you can believe in faith, you can believe in confidence, because they're the exact same things. You're just focusing on the wrong side of it. And when you do start to really acknowledge that, that's when the world changes. This past week, we've been working with clients to set themselves up for magic in 2023. And one of the things that we've started to do is I gave them a worksheet, a huge workbook that I've actually used since 2004, many, many years. And one of my favorite things to do is always reflecting on the year with your wins. And I gave them 2 pages to fill out with really small lines so that they'd have a lot of wins to remember and recall and share. And it was magical because they realized, even without going back to their journals, even without going back to any of their notes or any of the things that they'd done, just off the top of their head, looking back on the past year, they did not realize how many wins they actually had and how much they really had to celebrate. When you start focusing on what is working, you can get more of it. And so when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome, okay, when it comes to overcoming this imposter syndrome, there are a couple of really concrete steps I want to leave you with that you can actually go out and do, just depending on what your preference is. So the first is acknowledge your success. If you're feeling like an imposter, acknowledge what is going right. Just like my clients are looking back and going, wow, some days I don't think I do much. And then when I look back at the whole year, I am freaking incredible. I have had a great year. So look back on yourself and acknowledge your successes. Like, force yourself to do it. If you can't find any, I promise you, go find 100 successes and write them out, and really acknowledge the things that are working in your life and that you are doing, the contributions you are making. And don't just list it out going, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, there's another one. There's another one. As you do it, go back to it and acknowledge. Take the time to congratulate yourself. Realize that not everyone does the things that you do. Not everyone has the skills that you have, and start tooting your own horn. Really take the time to do that and to see the changes you are making in the world. Recognizing your wins is absolutely massive. So that's simple strategy number 1, okay? Not complicated. However, for some of you, if you've never done this before, it may not be easy. And I promise you, if you've never done one of my top 100 lists, this is going to be a game changer. Seriously, get to 100 things that you have as successes. It might not happen in one sitting. You may need to sit down 2, 3, 4, 10 times. It's going to happen, and keep looking for them. It will start training your brain and training you to go experience even more success. Number 2, okay, so step number 1 is go acknowledge your successes. Step number 2 is create an identity. Okay, create that success identity. If you didn't have imposter syndrome, what would your identity be? You've actually got to know who that person is and step into that identity with confidence. It's like an author will create a character in a book. You've literally got to go create that identity, because if you don't know what your identity is without imposter syndrome, how could you even get rid of the imposter syndrome? You don't even know where you're going. In order to achieve a goal, you need to know where you're at. Imposter syndrome. This is where I'm at. You need to know where you're going, and you need a plan to get there. So create the identity, so then you can at least create the plan and start doing things as that person. You can show up as her. You can live as her. So step 1 is really acknowledge your success. Step 2, create that identity. This is something we do in the Unstoppable You workshop, in our self-image blueprint, in our Abundance Accelerator program. We do we touch on this idea of identity and self-image in many of our programs, because it's so, so, so important. Okay. Now, the third thing is get the skills. Okay. Get the skills. Like I said, if you're new, if you literally just haven't done what you need to do to get the confidence to feel like you're actually worthy of the success, go do what you need to do and prove to yourself that you can. Go make the effort, take the effort and take the time. And when you do, you will actually realize that you are capable. Sometimes it might take longer than you want it to. We live in like this microwave society. Success happens like that, but sometimes it takes a few months, a few years, a little bit of elbow grease to get there. So go get the skills and be patient with yourself, realizing that everyone's path is different. Last but not least is really explore what's behind your imposter syndrome, right? If this has been something that you've been carrying with you for years or decades, and you actually want to get rid of it, yes, you're going to have to do everything I've said. However, I can show you how to get to the root cause. And we can really explore that by doing a breakthrough. We can explore that through the NLP practitioner training. And we have tools and resources that will work for you to overcome that. And we can help you put a plan together. So getting to root cause is absolutely critical. Okay. And so do all of these. If you do all of these things, I promise you will not recognize. You're going to need a telescope to look back to see how far you've come. And you'll be like, imposter syndrome, I don't know. It's like, it's so gone. But I promise you, if you take these 4 steps, if you acknowledge your successes, do the top 100 list, and keep doing it every single day, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 of you won't do it. But those of you that will are going to thank me profusely and profoundly. You will be like, oh my gosh, thank you. I look at my success and I'm really started to love myself, and I'm actually amazing. Create that identity. Go step into her with confidence. Go gain the skills that you need and get to root cause. If you want to let it go even faster, you can lighten that emotional load instantaneously. Within 30 days or less, you will look back and start shifting how you're feeling and how you're showing up in your world. So if those are your 4 steps, I want you to go out. I want you to rock it with confidence. If you are interested in learning more about how we can help you really overcome your imposter syndrome and curate a plan that is good for you, that does make sense for you, whether it's through our trainings, whether it's through our one-on-one work, whether it's through some other strategies, then book a call with me and my team and take action now. There are links in my bio. We will make sure to put the booking links in the chat so that you can actually connect with us. We will be happy to hop on a call it's absolutely free and put a strategy in place that makes sense for you. So you have yourself a great day. I would love to chat with you if this is something truly that you are suffering with. If imposter syndrome has been ruling your life and you are ready to overcome it and you are ready to say goodbye and you're actually ready to put in the work, right? Don't just say I have imposter syndrome, I don't want to do anything. You got to actually put in the work, okay? That's my caveat. We're ready to help if you are ready to take action and willing to show up for yourself, because you were put on this earth to do beautiful and wonderful things. You are born and destined to have a rich and fulfilling life. And all you've got to do is go down and claim it. So you have a beautiful day. I will see you again.